Welcome back to the podcast. We are the 2%. We are here with some very exciting guests today. I'm going to introduce them in just a minute. We are episode 7? I think episode 7. God's number. Yeah.
An episode that is close to the number 10. Closer to 10 than 0.
All right. So episode 7. And let's see. What were we going to talk about this week? We wanted to talk about we're gearing up for the holidays. So Halloween just came and went very fast. And so we're looking at Thanksgiving coming, but I'm like, yeah, I'm decorating for Christmas. I don't care anymore.
I think everybody's just ready to skip the Thanksgiving, go straight to Christmas.
Feels like that.
It's been a rough year.
Yeah.
At least rough end of the year for us. And
I had Andrew bring all the Christmas bins in, but like not in. So obviously we haven't decorated yet, but it's like from the shed to the back porch. And now the next step is going to be inside and then we're going to decorate. So it's going to happen this week.
Yeah.
And it's official. Home Depot is already with their decorations.
Oh yeah. And Walmart.
September, I want to say.
It's insane. That's insane that they do it so soon. But talk about like insane Christmas decoration. Our neighbor across the street, we call him Mr. Dan.
You can't see him through these windows because the sunlight.
The glares too. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could see out there, he's already begun decorating. And so his whole yard is lit up like the 4th of July. And so every Christmas he does this. And so it's so extravagant. Like, what is it? Clark Griswold from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It's like that. Like it's not even a joke. And so every Christmas we just put a sign outside that says ditto. Or same.
Yeah, we have a lot. Yeah, and I have a video of it.
That way.
I have a video of it, and if I can find it, I'll put it on add it to this podcast. But we at first we were like, well, we'll put lights up around the house and stuff like that, and he accumulates every year, so he adds a new element every year, and so we got to a point where like there's even our minimalist kind of approach looks even worse compared to his house than if we just didn't do anything.
It looks like we didn't even try.
Yeah, so now we just I painted a festive sign that says same in like red and green and white, and then we string lights around it so you could see it at night, and it has an arrow just pointing at
it. Used to be that people would like drive by and stop in front of his house and take pictures, and they'd get out because he's got a Santa seat. And so they'd take pictures, and that we were like,
he's
oh my
got
gosh,
a train set going around.
And, well, since we started putting our sign up, they stop and they take a picture of our sign because it's so funny, and I'm like, okay, we're winning.
One lady did stop while I was putting it up, and she said that I made her week because I put that sign up. She's like, his yard looks so great, but you just made my week. I was like, all right, see, mission accomplished. Yeah.
Winning.
Yeah.
Winning.
We'll take it.
With real life stories on display, gifts and talents in every way, building up the community. Have you had your 2% today?
We've known each other for a while now, and you play in the band and you're up there all the time, right? And like, so we know you, we've had you guys over, and like we know you, but we don't know you. And so like, I'm really excited to dig in, and I'm really excited to hear their story. But we have Charlie and Sandy Velez. Is that, I
got it right?
I don't know what I'm doing. Velez. So they're our guests today. Yay. So I'm going to give the super high level of who they are, but then they are going to tell us their stories and just kind of like dig in who they are and what they're all about. So let me see. We'll start with Charlie. So you are, to say musician, like, yeah, right. Like it's so much more than that. You're like a consummate musician. You currently play the bass at Redeemer, but you used to play for beep, and we're going to talk about it.
That's fine.
So we'll get into it. It's going to be a surprise. We should censor that.
I said too much.
That'd be cute. Yeah, I've said too much. And you are like living your best life because you are retired.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. All right. So maybe we'll get into that. And then Sandy, you are a teacher, but you just recently went back because you were retired, right? But
I was semi-retired.
Okay.
I stopped long enough in order to care for my parents and then my grandbabies, and then I went back.
There it is. Okay.
Nice.
Again.
I love that. Okay. And you are also a former theater buff, but you're going to have to break that down for me because from what I understand, I'm told you sing, but I've never heard you.
Yes, I know.
So we have to break that down. And then you are the mother of 2 grown daughters, right? And then how many grandkids?
We
Just
have,
the 2?
We have 7 between us because
my
he has a
gosh.
daughter too.
Yes.
So the three 3 girls,
Woo.
and there are 7 grandbabies.
Oh, nice.
My
Perfect number,
gosh.
3
See?
and 7.
7.
Yep.
That's right. 3, 7.
So are you
All right.
saying telling them to stop now?
I'm saying we're
Like,
done.
we're done.
Yeah. Other than
Theme.
if God were to change anything, he'd have to get us to another really good number, which would be 12.
Oh,
yeah, there we
yeah.
go.
So, yes, everybody
Yeah.
has to take on a whole lot more.
The pressure's on. There you go. So,
Yeah.
all right. So yeah, I mean, again, so stinking high level of like just who you guys are, and we've only scratched the surface. So we'll move right into story time because I'm excited to get to know you guys. But like, okay, so the first thing I guess would be tell us a little bit more about yourselves, but like just your role at Redeemer, like what you guys are doing there, what you're involved in. We'll start there, and then we'll kind of go into like how you met, your backstory, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Ladies first, always.
Okay.
See,
I
there
like
you
it.
go.
I like it.
All right. I feel as though my role is to worship from the sanctuary pews because the presence of God being invited in, not just in the front,
Mm-hmm.
but from the back
Mm-hmm.
and through the doors and through the walking through the pathways of every window, every seat, every space. And I believe that's the primary thing on a Sunday morning that I'm called to right now. If God changes that, and he has before, then I will be in that place that I would go, I would sing in the front where you'd hear me. But right now and always, I sing to a consummate audience of one.
Amen.
Oh, I love that.
So
Amen.
that's what I'm there for. And I want to be, a face of joy for the church, you know, that. And where I see the ministries that I am involved in is the 55 plus. I think that's a wonderful thing that this young church has this ministry because many don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really, really important because I think there's a lot of wisdom as well as tremendous prayer support for a young church where you have your all generations,
Oh,
yeah. Absolutely.
all generations feeding into the body of Christ that
Yeah.
way, because there's experiences as well as some, time when you're older. And I'm not saying I'm that much older, but older, that you're in that place that your prayer life takes on another level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just does.
Yeah. I can see that. Totally
And
get
so that's what I feel. I'm there to pray and to worship and to obviously live life because we see Redeemer as a family and we're living life.
that. Yeah.
One thing I love, just for a quick second, I love watching you like walk through and pray over the pews whenever we're doing worship rehearsal and things like that. So like we're trying to figure out a little semantics of, okay, we got to do this song this way and blah, blah, blah. Do it this way so it's not distracting, blah, blah, blah. But it's so great to see people like you walking around and, praying over the pews where people are going to be sitting or may not be sitting or who have sat there or whatever it is. Like that's always a good reminder for me, like God's moving in this place regardless of my current mindset or if I'm distracted by just little meticulous things, seeing that has always been very encouraging. Cause I'm like, don't forget who you're doing this for and who your audience is. Just like you said, that audience of one.
Yeah. It's that in particular for me is something that I feel as though when the Spirit is invited in, you have a different service.
So tell us a little about your role at Redeemer and what you like to do there, where you serve, all that good stuff.
Well, I feel like I've gone through full circle because as a kid, I was always involved in church in one form or another. Coming from a large church until I'd say recently, about maybe 3 years, and coming into Redeemer, I feel like I found my place. The bottom line for me has always been about serving in one form or another. I just can't sit back and just watch. I have to be involved. And I just feel that that's part of my testimony is literally walking the walk. And that means being involved, getting to know the people at the church, hoping that they're going to also get to know me so that, in a sense, I can be accountable to them, You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to walk a certain way, and that requires me, for me personally, being involved musically.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny because your giftings obviously are somewhat similar, right? Because they're the arts and all that, but also very different, right? Because you right now, and you said yourself, you're in a place where you kind of just you want to sit kind of back and pray over it and invite the Spirit in, which, and you've said one day maybe he'll get you on stage. I don't know, see. But for right now, you're in a season where to you it's more important to kind of just sit back and be in more of what I would call like a support role, which don't even for a second tell me that that's like not a service. That's serving. You know what I mean? That is such a beautiful way to serve too, because I feel like sometimes people get this wrong idea that like serving in a church looks like go, 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 like you've got to be doing something, or you got to be in the middle of something, or a part of a program. And it's like,
or you got to be the head of something.
Yeah. You got to be leading something.
You got to be leading
whatever.
it, yeah.
But, and sometimes it is for people, but like,
I think we balance each other out.
Yes.
I really honestly believe that. Because the fact of the matter is that whereas I'm more upfront, right?
Mm-hmm.
She is working the back, and she's reaching out to people in that way. And she prays over the pews, as you've mentioned, right?
Yeah, I love that.
And I think that being able to have that balance is so important, especially particularly because it's in our marriage.
Yeah,
we're a blended family. This is not our first rodeo. So for me personally, I just think that we connected not only in the right place, but also with each other, because we're all about wanting to serve in one form or another.
Absolutely.
So unpack that a little bit. Tell us how you guys met, and like whatever you want to share, but like you could be really romantic or like whatever, like how did you guys meet and all that good stuff.
You want to do it? I want to do it.
I like Charlie. I like your response. You give her the opportunity to tell the truth, not just like.
Well, I'm going to tell you where
He'll tell you where he's coming from, and then I'll tell you where I came from.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, again, speaking about serving in church, right? We were. I was playing at Bayshore Christian, right? Had been there for quite some time, and again, playing bass with the praise band and whatnot. And I remember one day, I look up and I see this face beaming, right? Singing with a huge smile on her face. And I'm like, I want to know who she is.
Yeah.
I need to know who she is, because it was just, it's very, very hard to explain, but I was drawn first to the spirituality of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I first met her, I didn't even meet her. I just met her soul.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I saw her spirit.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to know who this person is. And that's how we met.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay, good answer. Okay, gotta follow that up.
I'm in the front. She's in the back. Okay.
Yeah.
She's sitting
Not
up
that way.
Yeah, she's sitting, and I want to say it was like maybe one of the very last pews of the church. And I'm just lasering in, and I'm like, okay, I need to know who this person is. Okay, you could take it from here.
Now, Bayshore Christian was where I was a full-time teacher.
Oh, okay.
And at the time, I was a single mom of 2 small kids. And so what Bayshore had offered me was a place that I could come in to communion with who I knew was the father of my children every day and the lover of my soul, and had come into that place where I was in a place of healing there. It was the place that God led me and strengthened me and taught me so much about his lordship. And I do mean lordship. And when there was someone who worked at the school but was the singer in a band that Charlie was, playing bass for, which is how he saw us. I was singing in the praise team at the church, but he was coming in with a band.
Gotcha.
Okay? So there were 2 different things going on. And then she's the one who said, if you're looking for a man that is just so kind and so sweet and so wonderful, you couldn't do any better than Charlie.
Oh,
Wow.
She lied.
Look at that! Look at that wingman. Just
She did. She totally. You just need to give him a chance. And I said, I'm really not dating. I'm very happy single. God has just held me and carried me, and I'm good. And then the Lord started to work on my heart to say, well, guess what? The time for you is changing, and you need to start preparing your heart. Because I was not ready, to be honest. I knew what blended families meant. I knew that this was not an easy choice. I knew that there's many people who don't even agree with blended families. But he and I both were, we were in marriages where the other person is the one who decided they didn't want to be married anymore and pursued other directions. And so we were both what you would call casualties of divorce. If that makes any sense. Not that two people don't always have, some responsibility in a relationship. You do. But we were both in that situation. And when God told me that it was going to be time, and he made it very clear, because he literally took the yoke of my first wedding dress and had me destroy it because I was breaking free from the yoke that had been there. Big long story on that. Someday I'll share that.
Right.
But he then showed me him and said, this is the man that I have for you. And I at first, to be fair, was very worried about the whole blended family and our kids getting along and how that was going to be. And so we took our time. We didn't involve the kids for a long time. We just kind of got to know each other. And then we waited for God to open the doors. And literally when it came to the wedding, a few weeks before when was that? It was like March. So in March, we broke up. We weren't going to be together. That was it. I was done. He was done. We weren't going to be together at all. And I said to the Lord, I don't want anything that isn't in your will. I'm cool with that. Let's part and we'll be okay. Whatever you decide, God, will be what you want.
Right.
And I said, but if you do intend us to be together, then you're going to have to do the entire wedding all by yourself, God, because I'm not doing it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I literally
had that conversation.
Literally. And this was in March, and by June, an entire wedding was prepared by people who came out of nowhere to say, okay, I want to do your flowers, and I'm going to give them to you as your wedding gift.
Oh,
I'm going to do, someone who had never made a wedding cake before offered to make a 3-tier cake for me in multiple levels. Another person who had never done, anything. Every single thing, everything was a gift.
Wow.
The photography was a gift. It was all done, all completely. I literally did nothing. There nothing.
You go, God.
And God said, and so it is done.
I mean,
God has a tendency to really enjoy a good wedding.
So I'm just telling you, it was that moment. And so in that midst and all of that, that was the confirmation I needed for the hard times, because going through a blended family is difficult.
Yeah.
It's a serious challenge for all people. If God calls you to be single, be single. If God calls you to a marriage, be married. Because in that is where your greatest ministry is, whichever he calls you to. But be at peace with that calling. Yeah. And this was, and it continues to be, a ministry of restoration.
Absolutely.
Okay? Because you come from serious brokenness when families have gone through the destruction.
She said she was going to make me cry. I'm tearing up.
Sorry. The destruction of a divorce.
Yeah.
The children, the
betrayal,
the betrayals, the hurts, the loneliness,
so many
the
layers
brokenness.
to that.
Yes. So in being able to trust another human being, let alone love another human being again, is a huge growth that you have to trust God with every day.
Yeah.
And the children, when they came around and finally moved on to, embracing, because it wasn't immediate. It was difficult. It was very difficult. And And now we also are in peace with even our exes, and we can do everything all together when needed. It's restoration.
Yeah.
The way that God takes all of those things that are broken. And I would never encourage anyone to get a divorce. I would still believe in the sanctity of marriage. I do believe in the sanctity of marriage, but I also understand that God is the restorer of broken things.
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
I take what he showed me, which is the pot that is crashed to the ground and then is inlaid in gold, as the one who can put it back together is the potter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who made it.
Yeah.
And can make it where that reflection of those broken parts illuminates him.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, podcast
And
is
so-
over. That's it. I mean, goodness gracious.
Well, and
Anyways,
I
that's our story.
I would also say that, and this is something that I see in the both of you, is that like regardless of whether you are single, you're married, remarried, divorced, whatever category you fall under in any of those things, if you're not working on your own relationship between you and God, none of those, like being single is not going to work.
Nope.
Being married is not going to work. Being the collateral damage of the divorce is not going to work. You have to do work on your own self with your relationship with Christ. And so that's something that is definitely evident in the both of you, and which makes, because it's a tough conversation in the Christian community to talk about remarriage and what that means and things like that. But I believe you guys are a beautiful example of how that could be done right.
Yeah.
At times it has been a challenge, all right? Because again, when you're in a blended family, there's going to be some challenges, right?
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is that God is good. And I know that almost sounds like almost flippant, but it's true.
But
you know what I mean? Let me tell you, it's a miracle where we are right now, because I was broken. I know that she was broken at one time. We connected. Then, of course, blending our families, and then we had our rough edges. But again, trying to stay as central in our beliefs and our faith in God. That was the most important thing. To the point that right now, for me personally, I look back and I say it's an absolute miracle where I am with regards to my former partner in my first marriage, where we can now connect, we can talk, right? We could be civil, to the point that she reached out and says, hey, I need to get a couple of security cameras. Do you have any ideas where I might be able to get a couple?
Right.
She's asking for advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the person that let's not get into it. But at the same token,
You're doing better, baby.
At the same token, though, with her first marriage, the same situation where it was a brokenness, and then God intervened. So in itself, there's been a tremendous miracle. Yeah. Tremendous healing, amongst all of us. And I know that God definitely is real.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
I think of the blended family that you do have, and not so many people can't say, oh, well, when our families got blended, everything was beautiful, and everything turned out beautifully. Like there were challenges, and it might have been
Absolutely.
rough and all that.
Absolutely.
But where you are today, where God has brought you, like, I still am in the midst of like a very broken family that they do not speak. They will not be in the same room. You have to figure, like when it's like holidays, it's like, oh, which one are we inviting? Because we can't invite that one if this one's coming. It's so
painful
much
on the children. It's
yes,
wrong.
yeah.
It's wrong.
Yes,
it really is
really
wrong for the
bad.
children. And that is something that we are very, very grateful for. But I will say that you can only do that where the grace of God covers you to do it.
Yeah.
You can't pull it on your own. It's not in your bootstraps.
No.
Should you say
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
It's not there.
Yeah.
It comes by the grace of God and from the Holy Spirit's leading. And honestly, for both of us, I can literally say that it's because God gives us the vision of what He sees in them every day.
Yeah.
But you guys are leading that,
We have to be submitted. You have to stay submitted to it, because it isn't like there aren't times. you know, that something happens or it touches on an old nerve, or when you're in those close the discussion takes a turn and you go, ooh, that wasn't a good idea.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, but see, that's just one more layer of healing that God's making us go through. Okay.
Yep.
Because see, that's another layer of healing.
Yeah.
It's when you walk away from another human being completely, there are things that you may be able to work on and you think you've got them all ironed out until they come back into the path and they touch that nerve. And you go, whoa.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why
That
does
still hurts.
Completely,
why does
completely
healing have
reminded.
to be like an onion? This
Yes.
is stupid. I was promised a one-time
have
healing.
to just keep being willing to hand it back over and say, oh, that was, and honestly, it's because I believe that God covers us in grace. And he doesn't make us deal with the whole onion all at once.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd make
Because
it if I
you
had
will,
to.
you won't. It's more than, and he knows because he created us.
So good.
You know, he gives us just that, the grace to take this other stuff. We're not dealing with that right now.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing, and we're going to deal with this one thing, get this one thing right with me. And then once you think you've got it, and you do, he'll test it a few times, and then you get to get up again and see, okay, I didn't quite handle it right, but I'll handle it better next time. God, give me a little more. And as we grow in that, there's tremendous freedom.
Yeah.
There's so much hope in that. I mean, I feel like even just that offers so much hope to people that are in broken homes or in blended families or whatever, that just have not arrived there.
Keep praying.
Yeah.
Keep praying. Do not give up. Do not give up.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, keep praying. Keep praying for God's presence and for forgiveness wherever that needs to take place.
Yeah. How did you guys come to meet Jesus and go as high or as deep as you want?
Well, for me, I was raised in a Pentecostal family, in a family of Pentecostals. And I've always known church since I was a little kid. And if you know anything with regards to being in a Pentecostal home, very, very religious, very, very strict. Almost every day is church. You have services in the morning, services in the evening, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. Here's the bottom line. You know, I could have been raised in church, but the fact of the matter is I had to make my own personal connection.
Yeah.
And I did that when I was about maybe 12 or 13 years old, because before that, to be honest with you, church for me was more like a social club, getting together with your friends, getting to see them, hang out with them and whatnot, because you grow up with all these people.
Yeah.
But I had to ultimately make a decision. So it was about 12 or 13 years old when I did that. And even through all the storms and everything that I went through, yes, did I step away from, at a time, we can edit this, right?
Oh, yeah.
even though at one point, again, because of the betrayals and everything that I had gone through, I had my period of time when I was in the wilderness, but God pulled me back through, and it was through the encouragements of friends that I was able to get back in line. But I think it's so important to have those kind of connections. So that's the reason why I do believe in the 2%. Wanting to be in a position to be able to help others as they're going through their own wilderness,
Yeah.
And I will tell you that it was our mutual friend who invited me to get involved with the church over at Bayshore, get involved again musically, because before that, I even sold all of my instruments. Okay.
Oh, wow. So you didn't even own a bass?
No. At
that time.
I sold everything. I didn't have anything at all. And I had this one friend that said, Charlie, you need to get involved again. And I said, been there, done that. No, he says, no, you have something that you need to share with people. Let me help you out. He took me over to a music store, Sam Ash at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, at least
Rest in
let's look
peace.
at what, the instruments that we got here. Let's see what you got.
Yeah.
See if you could still play something. So I said, okay, fine. Sat down. He handed me a bass. He said, what do you think? I said, yeah, it's pretty decent. He says, well, it's yours. And I said, what do you mean it's mine? He says, I'm going to buy it for you. I said, and that's how I got started. And I got back into church and I started playing in the praise band.
That's awesome.
And it was not too long thereafter. Every single instrument, by the way, every single instrument that I have literally was given to me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a Rickenbacker bass.
Yeah,
That
also
thing
a gift.
easily cost like $2,000 plus.
I had to be like Samson. I had to trade my long hair for that blue and gold guitar right above Sandy's head. And I'm telling you, like, I mean, my hair, there's some people that can look like Jason Momoa with hair.
We'll put a picture.
Yeah, but
I gotta see
I don't.
that.
I don't look like Jason Momoa.
No?
No, I can't pull the long hair off very well.
Yeah.
But I still grew it out super long, and so I knew, like, Jamie would tell me every single day, I don't. You need to get a haircut. You need to get a haircut.
I liked it for a little while.
Like, I'm gonna make a deal with you. If you let me get this guitar, I will. You know, if I'm walking out of the store with it in one hand, I'm booking an appointment at the barbershop in the other hand. And so that's the deal. And then I traded my hair for it. Yeah.
She negotiated.
That
That
Yeah.
was good, girl.
Like, okay, kind of.
But I do tell a lot of dudes that like are like, oh, like I like, you know, like that instrument, or ask about like where I got it. I tell them why. I'm like, this is a husband hack.
No, how you like that?
Grow your facial hair or your head hair out obnoxiously long, like
Okay.
ugly long, until your wife is
People do
begging
that.
you.
Well, I'm just going to say that's how I got reconnected is because somebody stepped up.
Yeah.
And they
Yep.
said, hey,
Awesome.
you know what? You're wasting your life. You know, you need to get reconnected. And I did. He bought me the instrument. I started playing over at church. And all of a sudden one day, on a Sunday morning, I look up and there she is. She's singing her heart out. And she's got this look on her face. And that's, like I said, going back in circles. That's the person I want to meet.
Yeah, that's so sovereign. I mean, like, God knew what he was doing, his timing, and placing you there, and like pulling you back into the fold, using a friend to do it. You know, you're a single mother of two, just in your relationship with Jesus, and then you see him and he sees you, and it's like, I mean, God could not be a more masterful designer
Absolutely.
of things. Like,
Agreed.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Absolutely.
So how did you come to meet Jesus?
Well, also raised in a Christian home, not Pentecostal, but
That's okay.
it was a non-denominational Christian church, and my parents, we obviously, the best way to raise a family was to be in church all the time, especially back then. It just was. It was the catalyst to protect your kids from a lot of things, you know, and they really firmly believed that. And we were involved in everything. We were just part of everything in there. But my brothers and sisters were all in a musical called Natural High, which goes way back. Okay. Way back, because I was little. Okay. I was little and they were all older than me. So the oldest one is 12 years older than I am. So, and I was little, and they did this musical. And the first time they did it, I really just liked the music. You know, I was really drawn in, and it had all the dancing and the moving and the, you know, doing it up, and I was all about it. And then I started memorizing the songs, you know, and then I started hearing them when I was sleeping. I would hear the songs about Jesus over and over in my heart and in my mind when I was sleeping. And then the final night for that, because they would do it like repetitively in other churches, and they took it places. And the last night, I was 9 years old, and I felt that it was, the song was, it's the moment. And it spoke to my heart that it's now.
Yeah.
It's this moment. It's right here, right now. He's face to face. Make this decision. And I went down and I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior. And then I had to fight the church fight because I was 9 years old, and they didn't baptize kids until they were 12.
Oh.
So I had to go through courses, which I agree with. I mean, I think there was a place of, you can emotionally feel a lot of things, but do you know what you're committing to?
Yeah, I see that side.
Do you
Yeah.
understand, you know, or do you have that kind of capability to really understand the commitment you're making?
Yeah.
And they wanted to make sure,
Yeah.
you know, and I got that. But my pastor at the time was more like a grandpa to me. And I just loved him. He was like the best person ever. So it just meant I got to spend every Sunday afternoon for several months with someone who I thought of so highly.
Yeah.
And then he finally made that decision and let me get baptized. Now,
were you 12?
I was not. I was still 9.
Nice.
You're an early graduate.
Yeah.
I was.
Nice.
She put in the work.
I got in. I did what I needed
You're
to
the
be done.
Doogie Howser of baptism.
To convince them
That's great.
that I knew what I was thinking.
Wow.
And I really felt it in my heart. And I think the word he used was, I had come to recognize all the traditions, but that I had found a personal relationship. And that's the way he put it.
Yeah.
Because he said, it's in that I say yes.
Yeah.
Because you're not just talking all the things that we're teaching you. You're talking about something we didn't exactly get to yet.
Yeah.
You're pretty young.
You found that yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That God had to have revealed that to you.
Yeah.
You know, so it was that relationship. And I can remember having been baptized, remembering the feeling of being clean and fresh and new. And then I knew I had to go to school the next Monday, and life had to be different. Because I had some friends, you know, that were taking us down into the backwoods, and we were doing, you know, the smoking and the hanging out. And
You're doing the
and I
backwoods
had-
in the backwoods.
I was at 9. At 9. I
Wow.
wasn't actually smoking because I didn't know how, and I didn't really do it very well, just to be fair. I didn't. But, you know, you take the cigarette and you go,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just the move. Just the move.
you know, because that made you cool. And
Yeah.
so I was
Yeah.
all part of the less than ideal group. But I remember walking, and as I was walking, because we used to walk to school, to and from school, and I was walking to school, and I said, okay, Jesus, you're going to have to be my only friend because I have to get rid of all my friends.
Oh, wow.
And I just felt really strongly like he said, and that's okay. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm there for you.
Yeah.
And I did. I went to school and I had to tell them all that I had gotten baptized and that I wasn't doing this anymore. And then I had to go to school with them until I was graduated from high school.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
They're like,
So-
is this real? Because you're going to be with us the next 10 years of your life. Yeah.
This is an awkward.
Exactly. And then I had to live it out.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
God knew that I had to live it out.
Yeah.
I had to be real with them, and I had to be genuine, and you know, and that was, and it was a constant, you know, pressure because those kids knew that I had buttons that they could potentially push.
Yep.
You know, because they knew you can. Oh yeah, you can pretend you're all goody two shoes. We know.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
We
Yep.
know.
Yeah.
We know about you. And I mean, no, but that was me, my old me. And that's something we all have to learn to say.
Yeah.
That's my old me, the old man,
Yep.
not who Christ sees me in my new me.
Right.
And
Okay.
you knew that at 9. I mean,
I
that's
did.
amazing. I mean, I feel like, you know, God revealed something to you very young, you know, and I feel like that happens. Everybody
It
we've
does
talked
happen to some.
got saved early on in life, right? But then like a couple of us, me, you know, I got saved, but then like had this whole road of like, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes.
Well, it's like
all
a
into
it's
my
like a
ways.
journey of
Now,
reckoning.
Through
Yeah.
high school, absolutely carried, but I went away to college.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Oh,
there,
college, you
that was
say.
where it was tested again at a new
yeah.
level. Because see, then my church wasn't there, my family wasn't
Yep.
there. I was on my own.
Yeah.
You know, and so there was the place when the people who God would send people. In fact, my roommate made me crazy. She was a Bible thumping Southern Baptist.
Oh.
Loved her. Didn't like everything she had to say all the time because I was testing my wings.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like,
Yep.
I'm just trying to have a little fun here. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally get it.
She was like putting just a damper on my thunder all the time. And
Was
I
her name
like,
Karen? Was she
No.
a Karen?
You know,
Stop.
you know what's sad is her name was Sandy as well.
Oh.
So we were the Sandys.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and so she would just dog me, and I was like, you got to lay off. You got
Yeah.
to leave me alone.
Yeah. She was the
And-
salty
That was
Sandy.
like God trying to keep you
Oh,
in
it was.
check.
It totally was. It totally was because he was not letting go.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah,
that
he
makes any
doesn't.
sense,
Yeah.
he really did not. It was constant. She was always there. She was right there. And then, you know, I would say, I did try to walk on my own for a while with nothing.
Yeah.
You know, because I just felt like it wasn't, it had become too restrictive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to be able to just do whatever I felt like doing for a little while. And I didn't feel any joy there.
Yeah.
There was no peace there. There
No.
was no comfort there.
A little more chaos than
mirage.
peace.
It
Yeah.
was
Is it
a
fair
mess.
to say? Is it fair to say that Sandy was somewhat regimented and very?
See, I
very
love
much
Sandy.
about-
I loved her because she actually was genuine. There was a genuine heart there, but she did have this. You had to check all the boxes every day, all the time. There was no moment that it wasn't. How many times have you prayed today? How many times did you read scripture today? And there were a number that she would literally mark herself, and then she'd like be all unhappy if she missed one. And I used to say, it's really about relationship, and I'm not getting this. I'm not. Do I
Yeah.
understand doing that? Probably more now.
Yeah.
Back then, it felt very
Regimented.
forced.
Yeah. I was
Forced.
the same way.
Yeah.
Forced. And not. And
Yeah.
then I said, that doesn't seem very real or genuine to me, because you're not doing it out of, oh, I want to spend time with you, God. It's, oh, wait, I didn't do
I
my.
have to.
Check
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would even say that later in life, because she and I were together for a while, she recognized that in me later and came to a different place, you know, and started to ask more questions about that, because she had come to her own, you know, epiphany on it isn't about just regiment, it's about relationship. And
Well,
so
we've made the metaphor on this podcast several times before about how our relationship with God can be sometimes like working out, and sometimes there are days where you wake up and you don't feel like going to the gym. I just don't feel like it. Or, oh, I'm sore from the last time I worked out, so like I don't feel like I need to go, whatever the excuse might be, right? But I feel like as you get more into the working out and you start to see results and you start to see what you want to see and feel how you want to feel, you go, it's kind of nice, kind of like this, right? I make the same comparison to my relationship with God sometimes, as trite and silly as it might be, whatever, I don't care, is how I think. But like, I have to like command my soul to do these things. And again, it goes back to the theology of ordinary. If I make time to sit in solitude, if I make time to like sit and meditate and clear my head and just, all right, God, what do you want to tell me today? I hate getting alone. I hate spending time in solitude, right? But like when I spend time in scripture, when I first started doing that as a discipline, oh my gosh, it was like pulling teeth. Now it is, if I don't do it, I feel off. It's just like working out. If I don't do it, I've gained 2 pounds. I smelled a piece of cake and I gained 2 pounds. It's kind of the same. It's, you know, I miss it. I feel like there's something not right with my soul. But it started with one day and then the next day. And then we built on top of that. And then, you know, 2 years goes by and you're like, man, like I really enjoy spending time with the Lord now. I just never would have done that in my 20s. Cause I was like,
No.
party, you know, it felt forced. It felt like too much was being pushed on me and not something like I wanted to do. But again, it goes like, it's the working out. Like as you get older, you realize if I don't work out, I'm going to die. Like my heart's just going to stop. So like you started out because maybe you've got like, okay, I want to live, you know, so we go to the gym and we work out, like not for weight loss, but longevity. And it's the same with your spiritual life. For me anyway, it's about longevity. It's about the quality of my life while I'm still here. Like I want the abundant life that is talked about in scripture. Like I don't want to just get by, you know, and there's something about that discipline and that spiritual formation that, yeah, at first it can feel like, ugh. But then you really do fall in love with it.
Yeah, well, let me just share that with me. Coming because of the background I had growing up in the church, I would push back on a regular basis because I was not very much into the legalism. You know, you have to do this, and everything is regimented, and if you don't check these particular boxes, then you know you're going to go to hell.
Right?
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It was only later on when I realized, no, it's more about an actual relationship where it's you and God, not checking off all these boxes. And your praise and how you walk. Let me put it this way. How you walk is in itself a walking testimony, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
You know, how I relate with my neighbors, all right? how, and it's not that I'm being fake. No, I'm being totally sincere. I meet my neighbors. If I'm in a position to help them out, I want to be able to help them out. This is a matter of serving the Lord, in my opinion, is just being authentic. All right, not checking off the boxes.
Right.
So if I can do something for someone, and I'm doing it from the heart, I know that is pleasing to the Lord.
Yeah.
That in itself is a form of praise.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is only the practice for where we're going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And so I'm going to just take you everywhere with me, because I need to talk to you and listen to you and, have that. And for me, that is, I don't sit down with a set time as much as I set in my life all the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I will be the person, and it's hard for some people in my life, including my husband, that I would just like to always put on the praise music 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's me.
I am that person. I
That's
know
me.
that's not necessary. I know it's not for everybody else. But for me, that is like the constant in my back track.
It's a purposeful subliminal messaging to your brain. That's how I look at it. Yeah.
It's a constant reminder, because my soul gets tremendous nourishment from praise. It just does. And the more of it that's playing, even if it's really, really quiet and it's instrumental and it's off the side, it's on my desk, it's in my workplace, it's in my car, it's in my home.
It's in our home.
It's everywhere I am. And so then when I pick up the word, I feel like my heart and my mind is already ready.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Soil is being tilled,
yeah, it's already ready to receive. So
you don't feel like you're walking into a conversation where you miss something.
no,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being led into the next step of whatever we were talking about. We were talking about something. So, and when I hit things I don't like, he is the first one I talk to. Hello, are you paying any attention to this? Because I'm watching this and this doesn't look good.
And he
like
can
when you
handle
get
both. He can handle it
cut
all.
off in traffic,
All of
and
it.
I think that was a crazy driver. Lord, what was that?
Yeah.
I'm the
are you
right
gonna-
one here.
Are you gonna correct him? Because man, that was really dangerous.
Yeah. But I don't flip birds. I've never in my life.
No, but I do make the ugly face.
Yeah.
I do both. I do not. I'm just kidding.
I do. I make ugly
I'm gonna get in
faces.
trouble.
I do make ugly faces. I do look at them and
You pull up next to them and you're like,
are you serious? Oh no, I'd be very careful now, because anymore that's very dangerous
okay,
to even
that's
think.
true. Florida's bad for that.
It has become
Like, really
dangerous.
bad.
It has.
But
You said something, because we're going to move into the 2% segment where we ask you guys questions about the 2% and like all that stuff. So, but you said something that's kind of a perfect segue, because you said this is just practice for where we're going. And the idea of that, like, everything that we do today is practice for where we're going. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But at the same time, we're in the already but not yet.
yeah.
And so all of that praise and worship is happening right now. Like it's always going on out there, like, and so, but we are not a part of that yet, because we're here on this crappy fireball or whatever. But like, so we're just here. And so it's almost like, because of our flesh and our broken humanity, we get glimpses of this 24/7 worship. And sometimes you get a glimpse so good and so juicy that you're just like, oh, no way. Like, no way did I just feel that. No way did I just see that. No way did I just connect with my maker in that way. But it's so temporary, right? Because then you're drawn back to this and you're like, oh, life, I got to pay bills. I got to do laundry. Like, so it's very hard to stay in that mentality all the time. But when you get that glimpse, it's like, oh my gosh, that's what heaven's going to be like. Right. And so, yeah, I mean, I think practicing these disciplines and like getting a glimpse of what it's going to be like, I think it's a gift. I think it's like a revelation in a way, like no matter how short or how long or whatever it is. And like, and everybody's gifted differently, right? Like you were talking about something just a minute ago, and I like literally saw, your salvation story. I saw in my brain a vision of like the supernatural realm, like these, I don't know, like these angels around a 9-year-old, just like giving you this glimpse of this is real. This is about relationship. And then bam, you're baptized because you truly got it. You truly understood it. And I think that God revealed that to you at that age, so I don't know. It's like, I don't know, I'm not saying I see visions or whatever, but some people are like, have that thing. And so my point is, you get a glimpse into what is going to be forever. And so that's what the 2% is all about. That's why we started this. That's why we're doing this, is because, there's like a very small number in our worship team, and that's where this is kind of organically sprouting from. And then eventually we want to see it, kind of what's the word? We want to see it go out into the church,
spill into
the whole church. Yeah. And then permeate is the word.
Permeate.
So
Perfect.
Infect.
Yeah,
is that a good word?
That's
infect.
That's a little more weird, but that's okay. But then eventually go outside the church, right?
Yeah.
And have this 2% become a bigger number. Again, not for the sake of growth. We don't care about growth. If we have 20 listeners to this podcast for forever, fine. But what we're talking about is growing that percentage of people that are like, man, if I could just be engaged in active worship all day long, every day, I would really truly understand what heaven is going to be like.
Yes.
And so like, that's what this thing is all about. All right. So let me ask you guys this, because we could talk about this for hours. So, but we only have really an hour, and I know we're going to go over.
We're already over. That's okay.
Cut it out.
How did you guys discover your artistic talents? And then at what point did you say, was there like a moment where you said, oh, I'm kind of using this for the world. I want to use this for the glory of God. So kind of a 2-part question for both of you. Who wants to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I have an eclectic feel for music. I've always been drawn to music in all forms, shapes, and sizes. Okay. But as a kid, I was very much, I'm dating myself now, very much into like 60s, like the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Jefferson Airplane.
Yes.
Okay. All of that. I was very much, I really, really, really liked that kind of music. But I was very eclectic in the sense that I also like jazz of all kinds. I could listen to Charlie Parker, and the fact of the matter is that, again, being in a church, right, and being in a legalistic church, you could only do so much, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like recruited, quote unquote, to getting involved with the kids at the church that all were learning how to play an instrument.
Right.
And I noticed, okay, well, we got a guitarist over here. We got another guitarist over here. This guy wants to play piano. Here's another guitarist. I might as well play the bass.
There you go. There you go.
So I wanted to be the odd man out in that sense. So
you want to be less expendable.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And so I started learning on my own. When I was in high school, I actually took musical theory and stuff like that.
Awesome.
I was drawn to, when it came to bassists, I was drawn to like James Jamerson of Motown fame.
Yeah.
I was drawn to Paul McCartney as far as Beatles and stuff like that. So my style of playing is more melodic. I'm not very much into slapping and stuff like that.
Like the Victor Wootens.
Huh?
Like Victor Wooten. Victor Wooten goes nuts on it.
Yeah.
He's very experimental, but like
very expressive on his instrument for sure. It doesn't sound like a bass after you listen to him for a while.
He's kind of like Chris Thile, but for the bass, like just otherworldly. Otherworldly.
But that was what I was drawn to. I was always drawn to wanting to play bass guitar, and played in church, and then got involved with Brooklyn Tabernacle. Later on in life, after I had gotten married, we were living in Brooklyn. The church that I originally was raised in was in Manhattan, and it just became very, very difficult as far as commuting. And I remember, and I shared this story with you, that one day I was like, God, I can't do this commuting forever, and I need to find another church, but I don't know how to do that. I need for you to help me. I literally prayed that prayer. I said, Lord, please help me find a church. And I remember it was like maybe the next day or so where I found this piece of paper that apparently somebody slipped under my door, and I picked it up, and it was an invite to the Brooklyn Tabernacle. So that's where it started. And I remember the very first time I went to the church, sitting up in the balcony with my wife, my little girl, and we're listening to the service, and the very first song that I heard was "What a Difference You Made in My Life," which who is it? That's oh my goodness, "What a difference you made in my life." Who is it wrote that song?
I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway, the bottom line is
We'll
I
have to
heard
Google
that
it.
and I said, this is it. This is where I need to be.
Yeah.
And I was in that church for a good 12 years.
Wow.
And during that period of time, I got involved with the choir. I remember that one day I decided, you know what? And the choir was relatively small with about 50 people. For a church as big as it was, 50 people was a small little choir.
Yeah.
And I remember I said, you know what? I don't know why, but I kind of feel like I need to record this. And I had a boombox back in the day. Remember, this is back in the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself right now,
Yeah,
right?
it's good.
But
I had
I bought my boombox, right?
Back near the 808 days.
And I was up in the balcony, the very same balcony that I sat in the very first time I laid myself in the church, and I recorded it. I brought it over to Carol Cimbola, who happened to be the choir director. And I had headphones. I had plugged it in, and I said, listen, I want you to hear this. And she listened to it, and all she could say was, wow, this is great. The very next week, she had the crew, the tech crew, record like a good 100 tapes, because that's what we were using at the time.
Yeah.
Like 100 tapes, right?
Yeah.
And we had a bookstore in the church. Those things sold that very same night. And that led her into the idea of, well, maybe we should make a professional recording.
Yeah.
And they did their very first record, I want to say about 6 months thereafter. And then it just took off from there. And before you knew it, they had multiple records out there. And with time, they won like Grammys.
Yeah.
They won Grammys and all types of awards. I remember as the choir was expanding, here it is, I was getting involved more and more with the choir, playing bass and everything. We traveled to Crystal Cathedral, which is in Anaheim, California.
Yeah.
I remember the choir singing in Clearwater Beach, right? So we traveled a bit.
Yeah.
We also played over at Radio City Music Hall. We played at Carnegie Hall. All right.
Okay.
This took off, and it took off of a humble little boombox. Okay.
Just so you could
and
practice.
Recording it. Yeah.
With the intention of you practicing, and then
Exactly.
it turned into Emmys.
Yeah.
If I
Your
could
name should
tell
be
you
on it.
How many Brooklyn tabs our songs we grew up singing in our little choir at my church, we of course we thought that they were like famous. We were like, oh yeah, they're like, it's Brooklyn.
Well, they
Tab.
were.
It was
They
like
were
the-
in that realm.
But like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, as kids, we
it's humble.
idolized the Brooklyn Tab. Well, that's what I didn't know it had started.
Well,
from
you know,
such
the
humble-
choir was basically that's all it was going to be. It was just a little choir for the church, self-contained. There was no plans of it going anywhere. It was just that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not patting myself in the back. This is all God.
That's just
But here it
so
is.
cool.
I bring my boombox. I record it. I show it to Carol. Carol puts on the headphones. She's blown away. She decides that she's going to sell out like maybe 100 tapes, thinking that it was going to take a while. She just wanted to put it out there, little samples. And before you knew it, boom, they were gone that very same night. And it just started from there. It just
That's
took off.
crazy. That is so crazy.
To say it took off is an understatement.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They did a
that's
little
so
bit of something with it.
Yeah, I think I've heard of
Yeah,
it.
I think if I'm not mistaken, they also I wasn't involved at that time because I was already in Florida, but they actually performed for the inauguration of President Obama.
Yeah, 2015,
2016?
12? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
you're
2012.
probably right.
2012.
It's closer to that. Yeah. Yeah, but
For
I mean,
me to
you know,
remember a year is like,
from a choir that started at a YMCA with less than 125, no, more like 75 members to blow up over the course of, you know, a decade and a half at the time. I mean, that in itself is a miracle.
Yeah.
it's a
That's
small
crazy.
world. It is a a small world too, because now you live here, and now we get to benefit from your gift. Like, it's so cool.
Come up with an idea like that so we can make some money.
I was going to say, I should have given her a piece of paper to say, listen, whatever you sell, I want 10%.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'd take 2%. I'd be like, listen, I'll make a bargain here.
They're like money hungry.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
No. Yeah.
All right. So you are also artistically gifted, and so tell us a little bit about that and like how you discovered your talent and all that good stuff.
Well, I would say that my family encouraged. My family was very artistic. All of us were. So there was a lot of singing. Mom and dad in the choir, brothers, sisters sang. Everybody sang. So when you're in that kind of a family, you're immediately assumed, and the microphone is handed to you really quite young.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all very musical, and my father could play many instruments, and my mother, and they would sing, and we just sang as a family all the time. Our car was nothing but singing songs. My children still will say, we didn't go anywhere that there wasn't a choral response to all songs, every kind of song, including some that even now, you kind of go, ooh, that my family sang. That's what we did. We just did all the time. So the church was a given. That's where we spent all our time. And thus you were going to sing in the church, children's choirs, children opportunities. But when I knew that it was more than just a mom and a dad thing was when I got involved in musical theater. Yep. And in high school had many opportunities to do musical theater and went on to college to do musical theater. And that was where you realize that it's not just something that it had a gift. There was a gift. There was something there. There was something that was appreciated. And when they wanted to take me, and I had to make a decision in college, that was I going to go do this professionally?
Right.
Because the opportunities were coming. Now is where you make the decision. Are you going to go be in theater and perform the rest of your life, or are you going to have a family and follow another path? And that decision was not as easy as it sounds, because in one sense, when you're on a stage, there's a tremendous amount of adrenaline that gives you this really good feeling. You get all these happy things, because people love you, and you just, it's so wonderful,
The accolades.
Yes.
And there's like a dopamine hit from that.
There absolutely is. And so you get this certain high, and there's this thing about it. And there was that decision, and I truly could not, as I really felt, and this was during that college time, when I was not standing close and asking God every question. Right. So the temptation was even greater, and my husband at the time, because we married in my senior year, he was like, let's go to California. Let's get up. Let's do this. Yeah, you're great. We'll do wonderful. And I was like, I don't feel it. I don't think I'm supposed to do that. And it was really strong. And then, much to his chagrin, God did speak clearly and said he wanted me to be a teacher. And he was like,
Oh, man, yeah. It's a different lifestyle, a little bit.
You flipped one on me.
Oh, no, we're not doing that. We're getting out of here as fast as possible before you change your mind.
Right.
But and I did choose family. I chose family. There were moments, especially in the beginning, because I just felt like I was leaving everything behind. And I chose it because I just couldn't imagine having a family in that life.
Yeah.
I mean, the evenings and the nights are long, and the travel is constant. But I knew I wanted to be a mom. I knew I wanted to be a mom. Whether I was, the perfect mom or not was not the issue, but I knew I wanted to be a mother. And I just didn't like the way kids in the business were raised.
Yep.
It just didn't seem right.
Yeah.
It just didn't seem right. Not to mention they see their parents in so many things that they can't even watch.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
And that they, even if they did, they wouldn't understand it.
No,
Yeah.
it's very difficult. So I really honestly knew that was the decision that I was making. Now, ultimately, when did I hand it all over to the Lord was a different story.
Yeah.
Because that came when I was in my 20s, a little older, and I had just gone through my divorce.
Yeah.
That was when it became no longer, because of course he used that as part of the, you're not the woman I married, all of those things, which is not true.
Not true.
Okay. It was true. I was not the same person he married because my love for the Lord had taken off and I was in it.
Yeah.
and the woman he had come to marry was not that woman.
Yeah.
Truly.
Praise God, though.
So, but I had he was leaving and I had bills to pay and I was asking the Lord, how are we going to do this? Because I don't know how I'm going to do this. I just left my job to start a business at his encouragement, my husband's encouragement. So I was unemployed, starting a business, and now I'm alone with a mortgage payment and 2 babies.
Yeah.
And one of them literally a baby. I mean, she was not even but months old. And I was like, what are we going to do here, God? And he said, go sing.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, yeah? And like, what's that going to do?
You're like, where?
Yeah.
Karaoke?
Lots of questions, like, okay, so what's that going to look like? And literally he just opened doors for me to go and sing at a bunch of churches.
Cool.
And then they would give love offerings. And the love offerings did, meet a tremendous amount of things that we needed.
The bottom line is that it's been a loop where God has shown himself in one form or another on a regular basis.
Yep.
Throughout my years. Okay. So when people ask me, well, how are you so convinced that God is real? It's because I've seen him in action.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean that sincerely.
Yeah.
And I've touched on the fact that, I walk in faith, number one. Number two, I believe that it's my responsibility to be a walking testimony. So even if I don't have the opportunity at the moment to speak of Jesus to someone, I want people to see Jesus in me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So again, we know our neighbors in front of us, right? The house across the street from us, the houses around us. If anything, without saying a word, they know where we stand.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And on the night of that storm, because of that, the one neighbor across the street, in the middle of the worst of the eye coming over us, she was having water come in her house and she called.
Uh-oh.
And the first neighbor told her, I can't come. And she couldn't. It would have been very dangerous for her. It was very dangerous for Charlie, who ran out in the middle of that storm over to her house.
Oh, my goodness.
And brought towels and things for her and helped her because she had fallen and ended up with a concussion.
Hey.
But he's an EMT who had been one in New York and could actually, give her some good advice and to help her. And so he was supposed to be back there at that time for sure, without any questions.
Yeah.
I don't question why he stayed now.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time it
real.
was, what are you doing, buddy?
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't question that now because I see God's hand
Yes.
providing for them. And it has changed both of their hearts in a way that I didn't imagine touching because there's questions that are happening now.
Yeah.
Wow.
There are
There's a
questions.
work there.
Yes, there is a
I
work.
didn't speak Jesus to them.
No.
But they saw Jesus.
They saw Jesus when he came.
Jesus spoke Jesus to him.
He did.
Yeah.
He did because he was willing to come out in the storm to their place when they had a need. It was very powerful.
Man, that's like, that's figurative and literal. Like
and
you did
literal.
both.
Yeah.
It was. And so in that, I had told Pastor Mitch to pray for me because the following Sunday I was still feeling what I would have called PTSD from that storm. It was like I would hear something in my head and the noise. And I said, just pray for me, because I don't know why it is still just gut feeling for me.
Yeah.
And then it was in church that Sunday, and I said, Lord, why? What is that? And it's the whirlwind. The word is the whirlwind. It was the whirlwind. So I began looking up whirlwind. What is the whirlwind? Well, that's what God does when it's literally, a whirlwind is defined as hot and cold coming together. Which this was this storm that did this crazy cold front that came in the middle of a hurricane to hit a very hot storm. You know, and what it was doing. And I ultimately, the Lord just basically said, I'm mercy. That's who I am. That's my gifting, is mercy. And I feel what others feel. And they're still feeling it. They're still feeling it because they can't handle all of it. I'm sharing it with you. I need you to bring it to me. You know, so that they can move forward. And in that, I'm saying that because there's so many times in our lives when there's something you're going through, and maybe you don't know what that is, and you don't know why those feelings are there. Ask the Lord. Ask the Lord if you are sharing something. You know, if you are just supposed to be lifting up, probably nobody you know. Probably could be somebody you know, but maybe nobody you know. But you're asking for his peace amidst their storm.
The sensitivity to the Spirit that you have to like have heard a word whirlwind and go, oh, okay. And then to correlate that with this actual storm and then the metaphorical storm of like, and then everybody, and then you feel that because you're getting his mercy. And so
it is
all of that is God.
It is. It is spirit led. And sometimes some of us have to. I mean, I didn't immediately take it to be someone else's. I just thought it was mine. And it took a bit for me to then in prayer uncover that it wasn't mine. But it was more those around me. And then it was like showing me those around me that truly still are dealing in a fear, a very real fear that was still in our midst, you know.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me ask you this. So we did talk about we talked about the actual 2% and what it all means, and you know
the what? I'm sorry. Say again?
Exactly the 2%, and what we're really trying to do, you know, with this podcast and everything. But I guess talk to us a little bit about what being a part of the 2% means to you, and like how do you keep yourself enmeshed in that worship lifestyle?
I need to stay connected, and the way I stay connected is through, you know, again, obviously I'm with the praise team, and being accountable to the praise team. I mean, I connect and communicate rather with Pete on a regular basis because I want to be able to put my best foot forward, not for my praise, not for any kind of benefit to me, not to draw attention to myself. As a matter of fact, if I could play behind the curtain and not be seen, I'm perfectly fine with that. Honestly, what I want to be able to do is through whatever talents and gifts God has given me to be able to touch the lives of other people. And for me, the 2%, for example, is just being authentic in my faith and my belief that God is real. And again, like for example, if I'm able to help a neighbor, I may not have the opportunity at that very moment to speak Jesus, but I want them to see Jesus in me. And whatever it is that I do, I want to pique their interest. Let me share a story with you, an experience that I had, and that is that since we mentioned the fact that I was an EMT back in the day, I was an emergency medical technician working an ambulance in Manhattan, New York. Now we're talking New York City.
Wow.
Okay.
I watched those.
You see stabbings. You see child abuse. You see accidents of all kind. I mean, after a while, I became numb to a bit of it. To be honest with you, I remember one time, for example, where I came into a person's home. We were called in, because of a domestic situation, and this little, I would say, 4-year-old little boy clung onto me, okay, bleeding all over my shirt, but holding on to me. And I just started bawling. I just started crying.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, he was looking for a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm sorry. I think about it. And the fact of the matter is, I always said, even then, back in the day, I said, listen, God, please, even if I never say a word, let people see Jesus in me. Honestly. And it came to fruition one day when I was in the hospital, just coming off the elevator, and this one nurse that was working the floor, she said, I want to ask you something. Are you a Christian? Just out of the blue. Are you a Christian? And I said, yes, I am. And she goes, I knew it. I knew it. I could see it in you.
Yeah.
No one could explain it to me. I just knew it. And that's all she said. He says, okay, you have a good night. That was the end of that.
Wow.
But I mean, it just confirmed that we can knock on doors. God will call us sometimes to knock on doors, to give out pamphlets, to speak Jesus verbally to people.
Yeah.
But many times it's about the walk. It's about how we conduct ourselves, not because we're checking off boxes, but we want to live an authentic life as unto the Lord.
Yeah.
And the Lord does bless that.
Yeah.
And the Lord uses that. And I've seen multiple examples, not only in my personal life, but in the life of my wife, how we, either individually or together, have touched the lives of other people. And I don't say that to pat myself in the back or pat her in the back. It's all about Jesus. It's all about God. And bottom line is, I realize my days on earth are limited. Whereas, you know, as long as I'm here, I'm going to do my very, very best. Now, am I going to falter? I'm only human. All right. I'm going to fall from, you know, and fail from time to time. But it's my responsibility to lift myself up and not give Satan not even so much as an inch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have seen a lot of stuff, which is why I say God is definitely real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
God is definitely real. I'll leave it at that.
Wow. Okay. That's good. I'm going to move forward because we could talk about that for hours. So let me ask you this. I'm going to change up the question. How would you kind of challenge those listening? Maybe they're new to the 2%. This is their first episode, or they don't go to Redeemer even. And they're like, what? 2%? What is this? They understand the concept now because we've been talking about it. But how would you challenge, I guess, folks to stay enmeshed in this lifestyle of worship, like all day, every day? I guess like maybe like even practically or as an artist, like how could they get there? Like if they're just not feeling it, you know what I mean? Like I guess practical ways, or like, how do you see that?
Well, I think we started with the one that I mentioned first, which was, you know, that praise music can be on 24 hours a day, everywhere,
Yep.
all the time.
Practical.
Well, it is. It's a very practical thing. Yep. You just turn it on. I will tell people when they're struggling, get your praise on. Get your praise on. Turn it on. Fill your house. Find a spot. Whether you're in it and sitting in it, and if you're really going through it, leave it on when you leave the house.
Yeah.
Leave that praise on. Let it stay and permeate. Permeate your space with praise. I do believe in the power of worship. I do believe in the power of praise. I know the enemy cannot inhabit the praise of God's people. And so if you are in battle, get your praise on.
Yeah.
And put it is the thing that he sent out before the wars. The praise went first. Yeah. They were in front. Okay? So if you know you're under it and you're looking to get to that next level, it's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
It's non-negotiable. Because what eventually comes is that when you are even silent or even sleeping, your heart is still singing. And the word talks about him singing over you. You know, Zephaniah is no joke.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's Zephaniah 3:17 or 19. I don't have the exact address. But it's Zephaniah 3 in that zone. And it does talk about him singing over you. And not only have I felt that in my life, but I hear it. And in the darkest moments, it's all I hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all I hear. And if you are looking to take your next step, particularly praise that speaks the word of God.
Yeah.
If I'm going to give you a real nugget, it must speak the word.
Yeah.
Because the power is in the word.
Mm-hmm.
It is in the word. Because he is the word.
Yeah.
So that which says, repeats, affirms, into your spirit, that word of God over and over, and in your children's lives.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're going to put on something for them, find the ones that are the scripture-based lullabies, scripture-based songs of praise and worship. Feed that word 24 hours a day through music would be obviously my go-to.
That's great.
Now, there's not another thing except to start seeing yourself as the bride of Christ.
We're going to go into our last segment. It's called Missing Child segment, because on the milk cartons, you remember how they used to post the missing children on there? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a cutesy little name. Anyways, we're going to workshop that.
It's a working title, because the more at first it was like, this is a great idea, but like the more we talk about it, we're like, I don't know, like missing child.
Missing children.
I kind of want to make a joke about that,
Yeah, I
but
know. Whatever. Okay. So
that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, that's where we're at right now. It's real life.
Yeah.
It's real life. So let me ask you both, and this is one of those quick things where like first thing that pops into your
First
head.
thing.
So once you get your answer, you gotta lock it in, because
Okay.
only one of you can answer at a time. What is
Then you better do him first, because he.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think is missing from modern worship today?
Modern worship?
Yeah, what do you think is missing from worship today?
Wow.
In the church, globally, locally, whatever. Laser light shows. Just kidding.
I'm not. Well, look.
What's missing?
I know.
Or what should be missing? No, that's not the segment. What should be missing is a different segment. But what is missing?
I think that connecting authentically, because many times I have seen in the many years that I've been going to various churches, where many times I'm afraid to say it's more of a performance. And I understand that many churches, they're trying to draw people in, but I sometimes feel as if I'm not totally connecting. And I think what is missing is authentic worship, not performance. Okay? It's not about the flash, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah.
Right? I would very much like to see the fundamentals. I would very much like when, for example, where we get together during a song and everyone reaches out and we start shaking hands. We have these small little conversations within the service itself. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Connecting with people. I think that we need to connect more with people as opposed to just talking at them, talk to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's missing.
Yep.
A lot of talking at them, a lot of preaching at them. We need to have more of a
back and
one-on-one
forth,
conversation,
like a two-way street of that communication.
Yes, I think that needs to be emphasized more. Not necessarily missing, but needs to be emphasized more.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, your turn.
Love.
Okay.
Ah.
Oh, that's
Shocking.
There
That
we
would be
go.
my answer.
Okay.
No, but I'm going to explain that. Vulnerability. When you love someone, you're vulnerable. And in the midst of worship, I'm not sure people always get to that place of vulnerability where they're willing to be open, to just let
It's
God.
unnatural.
It is unnatural. We're very guarded.
Yeah.
And we guard our heart and don't guard our mind as much as we should.
Yeah. Yep.
But I think it's about that. I think it's about that vulnerability. I'm not sure we're as vulnerable in our times of worship as we should be.
Yeah.
Because I think that, again, when we love him, we trust him. When we love him, we can put the walls down. When we love him, we can be real. the reality is he sees it all already.
Yeah.
He's just waiting for you to drop the walls.
Mm-hmm.
So he can do the work.
Yep. Yep.
Because as long as you got the walls up, he told me one time I had my walls up really bad, and he said, that's a great place. Are you protecting yourself really well? And I said, yes, I am. It's working. Do you see it working? Yes. And I'm not coming through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's a gentleman.
Yeah,
He is
that's
a gentleman,
that's exactly.
And he is going to wait for you to take those walls down so that he can come in and heal what you think you're protecting yourself from.
I read a book. I'm pretty sure it was by Rob Bell. And there was a line in there that says, love that is forced is no love at all.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to free will. And
Absolutely.
God created us with that. And if it were not for free will, A, we wouldn't be human. And B, he wouldn't be a loving God. I mean, you have robots that love you. Great. What? That doesn't mean
if it's
anything.
forced, it's not really truly love.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So it does go back to like, I don't even know how we got on this, but the walls, yes. Like he's not going to be like, well, I'm not going to bulldoze through those. You let me know when you're ready.
Yeah. I mean, I think some people he will like, he's knocking. I mean, we can use that metaphor. He's knocking on those walls to say, are you going to let me in?
Yeah.
Are you going to let me in today? Today while we're in this moment and it's just you and me. Are you going to let me in?
Right.
And sometimes they look through the peephole.
Or sometimes, like for those of us who are stubborn and learn the hard way, maybe that's why he allows, other kinds of heartbreak and pain to occur.
It does,
or
so that you'll be willing to drop it.
Even I stubbed my toe. What? Why did you let that out? It's just like I do learn the hard way. And so, if he's not going to penetrate my walls, maybe he'll let me learn a life lesson. That's the nice way to put it.
And that is the nice way to put it. And I will say that some of that, we all go through, no matter with God or without God.
Yeah.
But I like to use the understanding that I cannot imagine having gone through the things I've gone through without God.
Me either.
Yeah.
I cannot fathom the darkness around the things I've gone through if I hadn't gone through them with God.
Yeah.
And I would say that, our stubbornness at many different times, he'll let us, I heard it described once, he'll let us run through the briar patch, get those sand spurs in our feet and feel all of that for a while.
Yep.
And he'll say, I'm going to sit right here and I'll wait. I'll wait for you. Come on. When you're done, I'm right here. You'll be ready.
Yeah.
And when you're ready, I'll sit you down and I'll help you take those sand spurs out and we'll get you back on that same path that I had for you. The path didn't change. Your path, you did a lot of dancing around out there.
Yeah.
You tried to forage your own path.
That 2-year-old that you're trying to chase down to get to the bathtub.
Oh,
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
That's us. That's all of us.
Yeah.
Do we chase them or do we wait?
Right. Yeah.
Hey, real quick, I just want to also add that when you were asking about what's missing in the church, I think what we need more of is also transparency.
Mm-hmm.
And that is making the connection, not being afraid to lift up our hands in praise, right? For example, not be worried about what whoever is around us is going to think or say, but just be totally transparent, be totally authentic. And I think that's at times, I'm not saying at every single church, but I think it's almost, in some churches, it's almost regiment.
Yeah.
As far as checking off those boxes we talked about earlier, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I would love to be able to see people, raising their hands, being not even aware of what's going on around them, but it's just connecting directly with the Father. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that the church needs more of that. The church definitely needs, in my opinion, more of a sense of let go and let God.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. this is going to be like a 4-hour episode. But I feel like it was in part like an interview and then in part like a therapy session because, I mean, you guys have like so much, like, I think spiritual wisdom behind you. And I think that comes from a lot of things. 1, I think it's a gift. 2, I think it's an anointing. 3, I believe that it's experience. It's just your life, and the stories that you have and things we've talked about, just your experiences, your pain, your stories, your blended family and how that's now one unified story. And then just your like distinct backgrounds and like all the stuff you did with theater, the stuff you did with Brooklyn Tab. And then I'm sorry, there are videos where he's in another band, but we don't talk about that. And I've seen pictures and he looks awesome. So we won't talk about that if we don't want to. But
Thank you.
all the distinctive stories you guys have had. And so, I'm truly blessed to know you two. And I feel like we've gotten to know you better just through this podcast.
Yeah.
And I hope that doesn't stop. I hope that we will continue to like hang out and stuff. And we need to do another worship thing here because that was really fun. But yeah, it's just been good to connect with you guys. And like, I feel like one day we'll kick you boys out and then she and I will just do this off camera. Because
That sounds fine.
we
I'm
had
perfectly okay with that.
Hey, Charlie and I'll just be
You guys can go
we'll
drink
be just
whiskey or whatever you do.
and we're gonna be jamming.
Yeah.
We're gonna be
I went
jamming.
straight
Go
to the
play
whiskey,
with your, go play with your.
Yeah, y'all have a good conversation. We're gonna write a song.
Exactly.
Oh,
There you go.
okay.
Yeah.
Hey, that works. All right. Well, so thank you guys also for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. You got all the little likes and subscribe doohickeys on the YouTube and the Spotify's or whatever. So do your thing. And then of course in the comments, post any songs that you are interested in worshiping with on Sundays. We can add them to the rotation. Or if you guys, we've said it, I think in 1 or 2 episodes, if you actually have like things you want to see like on a Sunday morning that helps you connect with the Lord. Like we've talked, I think we made a comment earlier, like, oh, we should have somebody paint that through this episode. Like if you know a painter or like an artist or if something that just connects you to God in your worship, maybe we don't have that element at Redeemer, probably because nobody's ever brought it up. But if that's like a thing for you, like post it in the comments. We want to know. We want to add it to our rotation. You know what I mean? And not for the sake of just adding it, but like if that's what connects you to your Father, we want to do it. So again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
With real life stories on display, gifts and talents in every way, building up the community. Have you had your 2% today?
What's up, 2% fam? My name is Emily Leatherman. Make sure you like and subscribe.